The opening scene is set in northern Taiwan, where a group of friends are playing basketball. A few moments later, it starts raining, and everyone seeks shelter beneath a bus stop, except for Ah-Lun. This turns out to be a fatal decision, as suddenly a lightning bolt strikes the court, killing him. In the afterlife, Ah-Lun finds himself in the underworld, where he is processed in a dusty old office. There, an angel registrar hands him a disc containing a review of his previous lives. She is also there to assist him with his reincarnation. Ah-Lun can choose whatever he wants, like he can become an insect or a human again. However, the options depend on how many credits he can accumulate to improve his future reincarnation experience. Back on Earth, we are introduced to a math teacher named Mei, who consistently behaves strangely. Currently, she is visiting a veterinarian to have her dog Kurumi examined. According to the doctor, the dog has a tumor and doesn't have much time left. Mei is a teacher by profession, but due to a leg injury, she is temporarily working at a pharmacy. She appears to have a disturbed mind, which causes her to act strangely. Mei goes to the basketball court every evening to pray to God and to tell him to keep his promise. In the underworld, Ah-Lun peeks into another room where he finds a girl with pink hair named Pinky. She appears to be sobbing over her death. When she notices Ah-Lun peering at her, she chastises him, calling him a creep. Just then, they notice a beggar uttering vows, which causes Ah-Lun to become lost in his own imagination. Soon after, he is awakened by the angel registrar, who asks if he has decided on a reincarnation. Ah-Lun, who doesn't want to be reincarnated as an insect, joins a large group of trainees to become a god of love. The scene then shifts to the first training session, where two trainers are explaining the procedures that are required to avoid being reincarnated as insects. For this, the participants are assigned to work as matchmakers who will have to facilitate couples on Earth. The more couples they match, the more merits they will accumulate. But before carrying out their tasks, they must have a partner with whom they will work together with to utilize the red string of romance. Those who fail will have no choice but to be reincarnated. After all these instructions, the training begins. But Ah-Lun and Pinky are constantly at odds. It is evident that they are a complete mismatch. Next, we learn that after life, the dead have an option of becoming a malicious ghost who can exact revenge for an unjust death. But there is a condition that they would be destroyed once their obligation is fulfilled. Pinky, who is underperforming in her training, decides to take this path in order to exact revenge for her death. She is about to wave the obligatory black flag, but right then, Ah-Lun arrives and throws the flag away, preventing her from becoming a vengeful spirit. In order to complete their training to become a god of love, everyone pairs up with the opposite sex. Ah-Lun and Pinky are forced to become partners because nobody else wants to be with them. However, this isn't enough to pass the final training stage, as they are required to show their affection for each other. Their affection will only be acknowledged if they are able to pass their love threads to a moving object. Hearing this, the dysfunctional couple tries everything possible to demonstrate their love. Pinky even decides to kiss him against her will, but their efforts are futile. They are failing miserably, but suddenly a moment strikes when both of them start to generate feelings for each other, prompting their love threads to arrive at their intended destination. After being crowned gods of love, all the qualifiers return to the living world as invisible matchmakers and start working on their mission. Every successful pairing they accomplish will lead their bracelets to change from black to white, earning them a credit towards being reincarnated into human form. Elsewhere, a group of 500-year-old ethnic Taiwanese bandits, led by Ghost Head, are on the prowl with their own agenda of vengeance. The leader encourages his subordinates to enter the battlefield, disregarding the consequences. He also motivates them to die together and be brothers in the next life. After this, they all arrive in the living world, where Ghost Head takes over the body of a young child. He then approaches their first betrayer, a fishmonger, and kills her immediately. Meanwhile, Ah-Lun and Pinky are at a bowling alley where they approach her former boyfriend. It turns out that he murdered her in the past. Ah-Lun assists Pinky in exacting revenge on the boy by making him have intercourse with a scooter. The evil work causes their bracelet beads to turn black. But instead of being concerned, they begin to laugh. Following this, the two wander around town, enjoying each other's company and cementing their friendship. In the evening, they are walking across the street when suddenly, Kurumi approaches them and starts barking at Ah-Lun. Despite the fact that he's invisible, the dog appears to have recognized him. This reminds Ah-Lun of the day when he rescued Kurumi from bullies. Soon after, Mei arrives there to pick up her dog. Seeing her reminds Ah-Lun of yet another memory when he met Mei for the first time at school. It is revealed that he fell in love with her during their first meeting, and as a result, he stood up and boldly asked her out in front of the entire class. He continued to ask her out, even though she always declines. Years passed, but Ah-Lun never gave up on her. Furthermore, he recalls Mei and Kurumi being with him on the day he died. After the basketball game, Ah-Lun asked her out once again, claiming that some things will last more than 10,000 years. He also took a red thread from her scarf and tied it to her ring finger before linking it to his own hand. They were having a romantic time when suddenly lightning struck, severing the red thread and separating them forever. After recalling all this, Ah-Lun sobs and breathes heavily. Later that night, he shares everything about his past with Pinky. He tells her how he kept pursuing Mei for all those years, despite her refusals. Ah-Lun further reveals that one night in the basketball court, 2 boys started making fun of him, so he stormed forward to fight them. However, he was terrible at fighting and was defeated badly. Despite being wounded, he wrote "Let's get married" on Mei's face with his blood. Following that night, her heart opened to Ah-Lun, and so she started giving him receptive signals. The next day, she kissed him, finally accepting his proposal. At present, Ah-Lun and Pinky are at Mei's house when they notice the strange behavior she exhibits while washing her face. It turns out she does this because she remembers Ah-Lun's instructions on how to see ghosts. Mei always acts this way as she desperately wants to see him again, even in the form of a ghost. Ah-Lun recalls the same thing, and he tries to make himself visible to her, but fails. The next day, Ah-Lun follows Mei to the pharmacy and apologizes for leaving her alone. Even though she can't hear him, he talks to her, saying that he regrets pursuing her, and that if he had known he would die, he never would have done so. Pinky overhears this and finally decides to help him. She summons other gods of love, and together, they attempt to bind the threads of love to Mei's hand so that she can fall in love with someone else and live the rest of her life happily. To their surprise, the thread breaks easily. After a while, some more love gods arrive and try every possible way to make Mei fall in love. However, all their efforts are futile. After several failed attempts, Pinky brings a thick and powerful thread from the underworld and ties it around Mei's body, making it difficult for her to breathe. She then passes the thread's end to Ah-Lun. Shortly after, Mei looks at him, shocking everyone in the room. It turns out that she had also been struck by lightning on that fateful day, and she was semi-conscious when she saw Ah-Lun's ghost being taken away by an angel. Since then, Mei has developed psychic abilities which allow her to see ghosts. Even on the day Ah-Lun met Kurumi, he was visible to her. However, she pretended that she couldn't see him as he was with another girl. At present, Mei questions Ah-Lun about why he is trying to make her fall in love with other people and why she can't be with him. She also expresses her fear of losing her ability to see his ghost and losing him forever. However, Ah-Lun is still stunned by the fact that she could see and hear him all this time. He then slowly walks towards her and embraces her tightly, assuring her that they will never be apart. Pinky, who seems to have feelings for Ah-Lun, walks away. The movie then shifts to Ghosthead, who roams the city seeking vengeance. This time, he takes over the body of a fishmonger and goes to meet his second target, a man at Jackpot Center. After killing the man, Ghosthead processes his body and proceeds to execute his final target. It's revealed that Ghosthead's subordinates betrayed him in the past by poisoning his drink and killing him. The subordinates did it to protect themselves from their powerful adversaries. At the moment, the underworld's leader, Yama, dispatches 2 of his best warriors to stop Ghosthead before more murders occur. On the other hand, Ah-Lun and Mei start spending quality time together, but normal people, including her father, believe that she has lost her mind. One day, the 2 are at a restaurant when Ghosthead joins them at their table and starts crying while looking at Mei. She turns out to be his former lover, the one who cut off his head after poisoning his drink, and now he's come to exact his vengeance on her. But before he can attack, Ah-Lun pushes him away and fights with him, allowing her to flee. In the midst of their battle, one of Yama's warriors shows up to destroy Ghosthead. However, the latter somehow manages to get away. After the incident, Ah-Lun and Pinky are taken into custody for breaking the rules of the underworld. They are thrown into a deep hole as their punishment. Meanwhile, Mei is on the basketball court with Kurumi, who sadly dies, causing her to become very emotional. She is crying in grief when Ghosthead returns to fulfill his vengeance on his final victim. He then takes over her body and begins torturing her. Back in the underworld, Ah-Lun and Pinky miraculously receive a rope that helps them to get out of the deep hole. Upon reaching the top, they find Kurumi holding the rope for them. Soon after, they learn that Mii is in danger, and they rush to aid her. Ghosthead is about to kill her, but at the same time, Yama's warriors arrive and start fighting fiercely. Not long after, Ah-Lun and Pinky arrive at the scene, only to discover that Mii is in dire condition. Ghosthead, who is filled with rage, is so powerful that even the superior warriors of the afterlife are unable to overpower him. Seeing this, Ah-Lun grabs a spear and tries to strike the enemy's head, but just then, he is reminded of a past event, which makes him kneel down on his knees and thank Ghosthead. Ah-Lun was reincarnated as a cockroach in one of his past lives, and at that moment, he was almost eaten by ants. Ghosthead, who was nearby, saved him out of generosity and let him live longer. Back in the present, Ghosthead remembers how he saved Ah-Lun and starts recalling the days when he was a kind and caring person. Because of this, he starts getting weak, and the grudge he has been carrying for so long eventually gets destroyed. At last, he slowly fades away and vanishes forever. In the next scene, Ah-Lun and Pinky return to Mii, and he extracts his soul thread from within himself. He ties one end of the rope to Mii's finger and asks Pinky to tie the other end to someone who can save her. In his final words, Ah-Lun expresses how grateful he is to be able to meet her and really hopes to be with her in the afterlife. After a while, Pinky ties the thread to a man who turns out to be Mii's vet friend. Hence, she is able to survive while Ah-Lun fades away, sacrificing himself for her. In the final scene, Mii is seen working with the same veterinarian at his clinic. There, two children are mocking each other, and the one claims that his charm will last 10,000 years. Hearing this, Mii turns around as it reminds her of Ah-Lun, who used to say the same thing.